10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 467. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 467 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. We are continuing our series on flipping some vocabulary this week. So last week we discussed taking the first tiny little phrase from the great Charlie Parker composition, Billie's Bounce. And the thing that I asked you to do was take the first tiny little opening phrase and put that through all 12 keys. And that was kind of the assignment from last time. So today we're going to build upon that assignment, and we're going to talk about now how we can take the vocabulary and sort of make it into a whole bunch of different things that are really valuable to us by simply thinking about its requisite parts. Because we talked about the fact that there was a lot of stuff going on in that tiny little phrase. The first thing that we talked about that we're actually going to grab onto this week is the fact that the phrase opens with a chord tone and its chromatic approach, its chromatic neighbor tone. It starts like this. It starts on the fifth. And all we're doing is we're playing the fifth, we're playing chromatically below it, and then back to the fifth. And then the melody jumps up to the root. So we are going to play off of the fact that that happens, and we're going to actually create a completely different piece of vocabulary, but one that capitalizes on that really useful thing. So one of the things that bebop does very often that we hear in so many phrases is these musicians, they understand that a great way to use chromaticism are to use the notes on either side of a chord tone. And actually, let's even limit it from chord tones, and let's just think about triads, right? So if we were to think about a concert F major triad, we obviously get three notes: F, A, and C. Now, if we were to think about the note that is one half step lower than all of those, we get E to F, and then we get A flat to A, and then we get B natural to C. And we can already hear that that sounds like bebop, right? It's sort of the essence of bebop is that we're not just playing the triads, we're playing the triads with some added flavor that's being provided to us through the chromaticism. And by simply just playing those lower chromatic neighbor tones, we've come up with our exercise, right? So what if we use the three opening notes from Billie's Bounce, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we come in on the end of 4, and we play the 5 down to the lower neighbor tone, then back to the 5. What if we simply just did that on every chord tone? So we'll start with it on 5. Then we'll move it to the root. Then we'll move it to the third. Back to the 5. And then we end on the root. Now, if we string that together without any pauses, we get this: 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is a really cool phrase. Now, not only is it a great piece of vocabulary that you could kind of play verbatim in one of your solos, it also touches on and makes sure that we know the lower chromatic neighbor tone to every note in the F major triad. And if we take this through all the keys, it therefore requires that we know the lower neighboring chromatic note to every major triad. Let me play it again. And here's the other really cool thing about it. C to B to C, 5 to chromatic, back to 5, is a 3-note pattern, basically. But we are playing in 4/4. So what does it also do? It gives us this really cool effect of each iteration of the pattern happening on an offbeat, then on the beat, then off the beat again, then on the beat, and then finally off the beat again. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and. You see how that works? So each chord tone, each note of the triad that we are playing happens sequentially off, on, off, on. And that's another really crucial element to playing this music, is we develop interest by playing maybe some of these sort of just transposed devices, but having them fall in different places every time we play it. So what we get, in essence, is we get this underlying sense of rhythm that goes like this. It's kind of like dotted quarter notes. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Ah, 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 ah. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and. And you could hear there's a very particular way that I'm playing it. Where are the accents? Ask yourself that question, because that will bring a completely new dimension to the way that you play it, basically. Not to what you play, the way that you play it. And that's just so important. I can't emphasize that enough. It's not about what you play, it's how you play it, right? And you'll hear that on the recording that you can practice with this week. You'll hear that I'm placing those accents in very specific places, and I'm not going to spell it out for you. I'd much rather just have you use your ears and start to recreate what you're hearing. A lot of you can probably tell exactly where those accents are happening, but if you can't, don't worry about it. Just practice it, and eventually you'll figure out where all the accents are happening. Okay, so this is what I want you to learn this week. I want you to do it around, maybe starting with the circle of fourths. So it would be, F first. Then you would go to the key of B flat. And then if you could do it in that order, that usually to me is the order that makes sense to start with, because circle of fourths is so prevalent in Western music. Then maybe you could do it chromatically. So you're starting with F. Then you go to F sharp. And for the Patreon members, I'll provide practice tracks for you in both of those orders, circle of fourths and chromatically. Now, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, maybe you're new to the show, Patreon, what's that? Well, we are a listener-supported podcast, which means we don't do any kind of ad reads on the show or seek out sponsors. Instead, we just rely on jazz students like you that get something out of this show to support us and keep this thing going. And in return for that, you don't just have to do it out of the goodwill of your heart. You do get a bunch of practice resources along with every single episode, so that you could take these ideas and put them into action right away. And we try to just facilitate that. So this week you will get a PDF with the original line, plus all the chord symbols for both orders, and you'll get those practice tracks that you can test yourself with. So if you want to know more about that and you think that might be helpful, go to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, and click on one of the Patreon banners, or go to patreon.com and search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson podcast. You'll get all the information on the different levels of support, what you get. And when you get signed up, you get instant access not only to this episode, but to the entire archive of 467 episodes worth of materials. We really appreciate everybody that supports us. We've got over 350 members over there doing the thing, showing their love for the show, and getting those amazing practice materials in return. So again, 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners, or patreon.com, search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, and hopefully I'll see you over there. All right, everybody, get to work learning this particular phrase. Remember, you kind of want it to be second nature. You don't really want to be thinking about it. And this kind of stuff might transfer over to your soloing like almost immediately, because this is such a classic sound. We'll be back next week with another way of flipping just this tiny little piece of vocabulary. And we'll see you soon. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.